I'm Gargi, and I'm Vice President Sales and Strategic Partnerships for GridLogix. Today's topic of webinar is patent searching in corporate environment. Before I go on to introduce my co-speaker for today's session, I'm delighted to welcome you all participants from different countries, different regions, and different domains. So thank you so much for taking time out to attend this webinar. I'm sure you'll have a lot to take home and use it for your patent search and analytical needs. Your participation is definitely very encouraging, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the webinar today. So now let me introduce our speaker of the day, Dr. Alexander Giesen. Dr. Giesen has a patent search company in Aachen and serves as a CEO of Veridian GmbH since 2006. After his PhD in organic chemistry, he started his professional career as a research scientist at the University of St. Andrews, UK, and worked as a consultant for Leeds University, UK, before taking up a position in pharmaceutical industry. Dr. Giesen holds an MBA from Henley Management College, UK. I request Dr. Giesen to now take over the session, and also if in case I've missed a few things from the introduction, I request him to kindly introduce himself and what he does, and then begin with the webinar. Thank you so much, Alex, and thanks everyone to be there for the session. I'll be on a passive mode right now. Feel free to ask any questions. Yes, Dr. Giesen, thank you so much for being there for giving this session today and being our speaker. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Gargi, for the very kind introduction. Well, my name is Alexander, you heard this. And first of all, I have to point you to my very strong German accent. I'm afraid you have to suffer through this for the course of this talk. And please feel free to ask any questions you have in the chat. Now, the topic of my talk today is patent searching in corporate environment. And before I go into media res, I like to just give you a short introduction about what I am doing and my relationship to GridLogix, the company which produces PatSeer. Gargi told you I am working as a CEO for a patent search firm, and we are using PatSeer a lot in our firm, and we also provide technical support and assistance to customers in the German-speaking region. And so I guess I know the product very well. And we are also doing a lot of consulting with large corporations. And so basically, this is the reason why I dare to give this talk and tell you about what I think about patent searching in the corporate environment. Now, let's start with this. Well, I guess it's obvious that the requirements in patent searching change from organization to organization, but still I like to give you my take on these requirements. And as mentioned before, you may come to a different conclusion about those requirements, and I would be very happy to discuss anything you think is missing in this talk, or where you have another point of view. Okay. So basically, if we look at the requirements for patent searching in a large organization, we identified those aspects here, which are simple and efficient searching, accountability, project-oriented work pattern, and collaboration. And now I will, first of all, talk you through these issues. So let me check. I have to press this one here. Okay. So the question of simple and efficient searching is basically quite trivial. I mean, everybody likes an effective searching tool, but we are also specifically looking at the split of experience within a large organization. In such organizations, you usually have got quite a lot non-expert users, which would prefer a very simple search. And on the other hand, you do have information professionals which really need a powerful search language. And this is a very difficult gap to bridge, because we basically need a tool which can be both and which is not restricting the information professional, but also allows the simple or the casual searcher to do simple searches straight away. And I will go into this into a moment, how PatSeer addresses these questions. Now, the next issue is accountability and documentation. It's quite clear that this is very important in a corporate environment. You will need to know who did the search and what exactly has to be done. And for example, if you're looking at FTO searches, which are really, really important, you would need also a precise and complete documentation of those searches. Now, we all know that documenting work can be very tedious, and we are looking for a way to do this without adding any extra workload on the researcher. And last but not least, we would be looking at some kind of automatic reporting and record keeping, again, without adding any extra burden to the researcher. The next issue is project-oriented work pattern. Now, what do I mean with this? Usually, patent researchers in large organizations tend to work on numerous projects in parallel or sequentially. And we need a method for keeping all the relevant records of all those search projects and keep a good overview what has been done. And the obvious solution to this are project files or work files, which are basically offered in any search tool. We use this for inspection of the result, reporting, and sharing of those results. And finally, I like to come to the question of collaboration. Collaboration basically means sharing the search results with the stakeholder of the searches. Very frequently, this may be engineers who are doing the actually research and development work, or it may be other departments, marketing departments, or the IP department. I guess the IP department is the most important stakeholder. And in those collaborations, we need to allow easy access to the results, and probably people want to comment those results, and we need somehow to keep track on those comments and understand who gave which feedback. And all this should be very simple, and in addition should allow a drill down into the data set for the user. Now, I guess let's get cracking with the first point, which is a simple and efficient searching. So as outlined before, we do have these two user groups. We have the non-professional user, which uses the search tool only occasionally, and we do have those professional patent searchers. Now, those non-professional users, they may be used to use search tools like Google, and you all know Google has got this Google patent thing, but very frequently these are not accessible in organizations. I personally know many organizations where people are not allowed to use Google in their corporate IT network, and it's basically blocked. But we still want to give those users the comfort of using a Google-like search. And this is something which PatSeer can do very easily. And now I have to switch my screen to my browser because I like to demonstrate this and just hope that's going to work. Now let me check. So you should be able to see my browser now. And what we have here is a search line which allows Google-like searches. And now I'm doing a lot of work on wind turbine blades and wind turbines in general. So I thought I use this as an example. Now let us assume you are an engineer and you want to learn something about the patent landscape of wind turbine blades. That is very simple. You simply punch in wind turbine. And now the system basically looks up what is in the patent landscape available about wind turbines, and you find wind turbine blades, and you can simply hit the button, and that's all you need to do to get a good search on wind turbine blades. Now let's try this. Okay, now what do we get? We get more than 40,000 records on wind turbine blades. And not surprising, but actually the searcher wants to know more about specific material, and I like to know now more about polyurethane foams in wind turbine blades. So I press the wrong button. Okay, I go to this search field here, which allows me to drill down into this data set and type in polyurethane. And okay, here is a polyurethane foam. You see there are other topics here. You could go for resins in general or for elastomer, but I want to go for polyurethane foams. And again, I simply, so the system actually suggests now that I should press this symbol here. I do this. And now I get a clean result list of polyurethane foam patents without basically knowing anything about patent searches. And I can walk through this now. And see, we actually get some highlighting here. And let us assume I want to learn more about this patent here. Well, I turned on the German language title. Sorry for this. You can also get the English one by default, actually. And now I can go to a quick view, and the system now shows me clearly where I find those terms. And now this is something I really like. I can simply press here one of those highlighted words, and the system automatically jumps to the section in the patent where I find this term and automatically highlights it. So for the inexperienced user, it is also very easy to go straight to the important part of the patent without knowing anything about patent searching. I think that's really, really great. Okay, now I switch back to my presentation. Let me hope that this is working again. Okay, so hopefully you are now seeing the presentation again. And I basically summarized here what we need for a non-professional user. We are looking for Google-like search interfaces. We are looking for search assisted by the system. And we are looking for an easy and straightforward refinement of the results. Okay, now next, let's take a look what the professional searcher may need. Okay, so the requirements of a professional searcher are quite different. A professional searcher needs a powerful command line search, because if you want to really work hard with your patents, this is what you need. You will be looking at well-structured search strings, which even allow complex searches without introducing errors. I guess everybody knows how difficult it can be to find a missing bracket in a search. And you really want advanced search operators to simplify the search expression. And now I'm going to give you an example of a pretty complex search. So here what you see on the top, on the yellow background, is a search string I recently used for a search on 3D printing. And you can see that I basically used all the German and English synonyms for the different 3D printing methods. So there are approximately 30 synonyms here in this search string. And I also combined this with a class search with an OR operator here. And now you can see easily that this is a quite complex search string. And well, I usually don't do this, but in this case, I'm going to do this. If you compare this with, for example, what Derwent Innovation would give you as a search string for an equivalent search, is this here and below. And I guess it's much easier to keep an overview about your search with the PatSeer search command line search than you would be able to do with the Derwent Innovation search. I think this is one of the main weaknesses of Derwent Innovation, that they have got this very confusing search query entry system. Okay, and I also like to point you to some of the operators we are using here. As you can see, when we do a subclass search here in these two terms, we can simply tell the system, well, the classes you are going to see now are subclasses, and you get straight here, and you need only to enter the subclasses, and the system takes care for all the rest. And you may also use this dollar operator, which I think is a very great invention, because this dollar operator allows the class search to all classes in the hierarchy below the current class. Well, I like to highlight this a little bit more. Here is a hierarchical IPC or CPC search. And now very frequently in many search engines, you use the dollar as the star symbol here. But if you look carefully to this class, for example, you will see that the star symbol would not give the correct truncation of the search term, because the 09 group is a subgroup of 08, and you need an operator which really considers all the subgroups according to the hierarchy and not according to some truncation mechanism. And this is a really big help for me, because in other search engines, you have to either give all the subclasses explicitly, or you have to use the star operators. And in some search engines, the star operator does a hierarchical search, in other it does not. And here, first of all, it's working very well, and secondly, it's quite clear what you get. Now, what I'm going to show you now is, in my opinion, the best part, for me at least, on PatSeer. I mean, for me, this is like a present from God, because it helps so much in my searches. This is an automatic annotation system for the numerals in patent drawings. I mean, we do a lot of engineering searches and we look a lot at drawings. And when you ever get a drawing, you get all these numerals and you have to ask yourself, hey, what is number 8 and what is number 11? I guess it's pretty clear from this picture here, but sometimes it can be confusing. And now PatSeer automatically produces a legend of those drawings where you can clearly see what number 3 is, for example, the positive electrode, and number 4, the negative electrode. And you can even punch in here a numeral where you want to know what this is. For example, if you wanted to know what is number 11, which is not shown here, it would jump to number 11 and tell you what this is. And this works surprisingly reliable. I'm always very impressed with this. Got another example here from an automotive search. And here we got a pretty complex cooling system. And now if I want to know what number 36 is, I can easily find that 36 is a refrigerant charge tube. Okay, so this is really, really helpful, and this saves me hours and hours of work. Okay, now so much for efficient patent searching. And now I like to jump to the slides which deal with documentation and accountability. As I mentioned before, I feel this is very important as well in a corporate environment. And I like to show you how documentation can be achieved very easily with PatSeer. Now, let me see. This is a search documentation which has been automatically produced by PatSeer. And this is actually the example shown before. And you can see that the whole structure of the search string is maintained in the automatically generated search documentation. And you also get information about how many records are produced by those searches and when those searches were created. And this is also tied to the account. And so it's very easy to see who actually did the search. Now, you do a search, you use some classes, and 3 months later, you pull out the search and you need to reconstruct the classes you used. And I mean, it's very difficult to keep track of all those classes. And so you can produce, together with the search documentation, an automatic class directory, which is also exported and filed away as a Word document. And here you can see all the classes which has been searched in the search project. And you even can see the hierarchy of those classes. And for example, if you go to this class here, you see that the subclass of 105 and 10 and so on. And you also see here that the operator $ was used to consider all subclasses as well. And the actually used classes in the search are printed in bold, while all the others are printed in regular print. So it's very simple to distinguish which classes actually has been searched. And again, this is very helpful for us. We provide those full documentations with our searches, and our external customers really like this because they can see what we've done. So let's go to the next slide. Now, documentation also means that you can keep track of what searches you actually performed in your search, and which searches you did but you did not further consider. And sometimes you may even forget to add specific searches to your search project because you think, well, that's not important, and later you figure out that's an important search. And so PatSeer automatically saves all the searches you've done, up to 1,000 searches actually, and keeps them in this current search folder. Okay. And in addition to this, you have got a project-specific search file where you keep all the searches for a specific project. So in this example, we have all the searches for this demo I'm doing today in one saved in one place, and I can simply click here on the blue figures and I get the search back into my search window. If we have got time, I can demonstrate it at a later stage. Now, then the other important issue for me is accountability. Now, let us assume we did a number of searches, we shared those results with our users, and then the users think, well, this is a very important document, or that's not an important document. And he provides a comment according to this. We can track down who provided this comment and when. And here you can see an example. So I've got a specific record, I have got a comment here, and you can see that I edited this comment yesterday. And you would be able to see all the other comments edited by other users, for example. So, and this brings me to the question of project-oriented work patterns. So what do I mean with this? Frequently, you will be asked in a corporate environment to work on this project or on that project, and we need some tools to keep track of what we have done, what were the results we have achieved. And these are basically the requirements. We need a method of keeping track of the relevant records, and these are usually project files or work folders. They have got different names in all those tools out there, and we need those for inspecting the results, reporting and sharing. Okay, now to look at this, I like to introduce a generic approach on how to bucketing patterns. So this will help us to speak the same language, because PatBase user would understand something different than a Thomson Innovation user or a Kestel user. And basically what we do is we do have a number of patent documents, and we need to put them into different buckets and retrieve them at a later stage. And if you look into this issue carefully, you will find different methods of doing this. And I like to talk you through these different methods, because they all can be used in PatSeer. They are not all available in all other patent databases. And I can tell you also, this may look very complex right now. It is very, very easy to use. And if you don't want to use them, most of them are turned off by default. So please do not get scared. So the basic approach is the private data set approach. So we do have a database here symbolized by the orange field, and all the blue dots are patents or patent families. And now you want to work on 2 projects. And what you basically do is you create copies of those patents and keep them in the red or the green project. These data sets are private, so they may contain different or the same records, and any annotations I do are private to this data set. This should be the most obvious approach, but if you are, for example, a PatBase user, you will have noticed that this is not the case. Now, we may also look at global annotations. A global annotation is an annotation which is applied to the whole data set in your database. So of course, user specific and not the public database available to everybody, just for the specific account. And now you can go ahead and add a comment to specific patents, but these comments will show up all the time. And this might be helpful and a good thing for you, or it might be really annoying depending on how you work. And the third approach is the search-based annotation approach. So let us assume you do 3 searches and you have got a search set 1 for one project, for example, the 3D printing project, and a next search set for another project, for example, a wind turbine blade project, and you do a third project for somebody else, and you annotate records during those searches. You don't actually need to put them into specific folders or work files or any kind of bucketing, but you simply can keep them and annotate them by the search, which is basically an automatic process if you hit the right configuration button. And so the annotations of records of families are not copied into specific projects, but are automatically assigned to the respective set of searches. And now I like to show you how you can use those different approaches to bucketing patents and which database is using which approach. And so what I find very interesting is that the private data set approach is actually not so popular. It's, as far as I know, only PatSeer is using really, really private data sets where you have got copies of your data which are kept strictly separate from each other. And the search annotation approach is also something which is unique to PatSeer, whereas the global annotations approach appears to be very, very popular. You have this approach with PatSeer as well, but you do have this approach with many other patent databases as well. I mean, the global annotation approach is quite good if you're always working on the same project. But if you are working on multiple projects, I find it very, very annoying and confusing. So we look at the scope. We have a scope for approximately 60,000 records per data set in PatSeer. And for all the other 2 approaches, it's either the current search or the global data set. Now, how do we get the patents into these buckets? For the private data set, we do have to hit a button, whereas for the search annotation, we don't need to do anything. It is implicitly added. So as soon as we add a comment or some kind of color coding, for example, or add some stars to this record, it is automatically added. And the global annotation is the same. The private data sets allow a very flexible tracking and annotation of those records, whereas for the search-based annotation and global annotation, it's quite limited, but it wouldn't make sense to have a more advanced approach here. And now I like to talk about actual pattern searches. For example, the private data set is extremely helpful for FTO and invalidity searches, whereas the private data set, the search annotation-based the search-based annotation approach is very, very helpful for invalidity searches. And this really cuts down the time of the search project significantly. So let's talk about invalidity searches. Now, I did a search here for a specific topic, and now I basically have to deal with three issues. I have to deal with the actual data set I'm looking at. Okay, this is what I'm seeing at the screen. So I do some search, I get a one or of course many results usually, and now I have to ask myself two things. First of all, did I already work on this record, and may this record be even part of what we already know about these projects? For example, if you get an invalidity search and the patent has a search report, there are documents in the search report and you usually don't want to report them again. This might be trivial in very many of the automotive patents. You only have got 3 or 4 references. But if you look at large patent families in biochemistry, for example, you sometimes have hundreds of references which already have been considered, and you may choose not to report them again. And finally, I'm looking at some form of search-based annotation, because I might figure out, well, this is a relevant record, but I'm not quite sure. So you can give it some stars and go back later to this record and make up your mind how relevant this record is. So this is here the same in more detail. Here, a new relevant record stored in this project. I can edit here by simply pressing on this button, and then this is stored to the data set for this project. And in this case, I actually see this record already has been added, so I don't have to go again through this record and read it, or the same applies for the family members. And now this is in light blue, which would indicate to me that this record is not yet a part of the known state of the art, for example, from a search report. And now the second record here is a record which is already known from the search report. And I can see this because this is part of this project file here. And for this reason, I do not need to consider it any further. And again, this is a very simple tool, but it helps a lot, really a lot, in patent searching if you are doing hundreds of projects each year and you need to keep track of what you've done, and particular when time is precious. Okay, now let us talk finally about collaboration. This is the last big chapter here in my talk. And let's see what this encompasses. Okay, in collaboration, we want to share our search results with our stakeholders. This may be engineers or other departments. And what is important is that we get some kind of easy access to those results, keep track of comments, and allow simple drill down into the data set by the user. And I like to show you very briefly basically the landscape of a collaboration with PatSeer, and I like to highlight how easy it is to build up such infrastructure. Now, let's assume the patent searcher, the professional patent searcher has got a regular PatSeer account. Here he can conduct searches, he can build projects, and he can even share those projects. And this project and the results of any searches may be shared with a shared account, which is basically an account for the casual user. And the casual user may review the results and annotate the results. But the results may also be shared with another regular account, say another professional patent searcher who is working on this project too. And he can, of course, review and annotate those records, but he can also add additional searches and records to the project. And the beauty of the whole thing is that both users, the shared account user or the other regular account users, can work on the same data set. So every annotation or review result is basically fed back into the original data set and available for all the users. And this makes work really, really easy and allows a very effective collaboration within the corporation. So, and just to give you a very brief example how simple it is, you hit the share button here, then a window pops up, and then you can basically tell the system who you want to share this project with. You can provide specific rights to this project, and you can even go for an advanced options where you have got a very fine-grained settings for those sharing options. And this allows a very, very effective and simple workflow. Now, in the last few seconds of my talk, I just like to come to a few special topics. They are quite advanced, but still worth mentioning. The first thing I like to tell you is that PatSeer can work in separate modes, whereas most databases are restricted to a specific working mode. For example, Dorrent Innovation is basically restricted to work on single records. So all the searches you do are only related to a single records, where other patent databases, for example, PatBase, are working in family mode, and you have to basically work with the whole family all the time. In PatSeer, you can switch the mode and very easily. So you have got the family mode or several family modes if you work on FTO and invalidity searches, and you have got document or record modes, which is the same if you work, for example, on applicant searches. And for the specific search types like FTO and invalidity, you can adjust the search modes according to your needs, because if you are working on an FTO project, you basically want to see the granted patent with priority, and some old PCT application is not really of any relevance. Whereas in an invalidity search, you have got basically the opposite situation. You want to see the document with the earliest publication date, because this may be just in the right time frame to meet the requirement for a novelty. And this is what you can adjust. You can adjust it to your needs and really nail the search very, very effectively. And finally, I'd like to show you very briefly some advanced analytic features. So if you have got complex landscape searches, you have got tools which allows you to very easily produce very impressive graphic presentations of your search result. You can do assignee cleanups. I mean, this is a weak point on all pattern search engines. You have got different names for the same assignee, even if you got standardized names or whatever. There are always issues where the same applicant has different names, and with PatSeer you have got a method to clean them up really, really nicely, and you get really straight answers. And I guess the marketing department will love such presentations. And now that's the best one. You can actually go into very detailed landscape analysis for your competitive landscape. And if you have to do a project on merger and acquisition and you want to learn about the patent landscape, you can produce such very, very impressive graphics. And well, that's basically it for my talk. I like to thank you for your attention. I hope it wasn't too boring. And I'm just hoping you don't feel like in a treadmill doing all those patent searches. And so that's it for me now.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Alex, for your wonderful detailed presentation. I'm sure we have a lot of corporates and as attendees here today. So I guess they have quite a bit to learn from the presentation in terms of, if they have few challenges that you have come across, how they can address and what tools they can use for different things. So sure, I guess we are ready to take up the questions. So shall we?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, sure. So I have a question about someone wants to ask about annotations that you have explained, but like, could you tell us in detail about how you can go about it and what tools you can use it for?
Okay, let me try to go back quickly to the annotation page. Hang on. I have to figure out how to go back here. Okay. Okay, now was too quick. Okay. So here we are. Okay, so the annotation, as I mentioned it earlier, are for me very, very helpful because we are doing a lot of engineering searches, and very frequently we are looking for a specific part or a specific configuration of parts in an engine or a cooling system. And very often the patent drawings are extremely helpful in this respect. And now you get a complex patent drawing, you get a number of parts, but you need to know what parts is what I'm actually seeing. And this is where the annotations really, really help. For example, if I wanted to know what part 112 in this drawing is, it's here, I would have to traditionally to open the description, search for number 112 and check, well, what is this now? And here with this annotation window or legend window next to the drawing, I can simply type in 142 or 112 in this case, and the system would jump to 112 and tell me what this is. Of course, sometimes the numerals are not explained in the description, which actually should not be the case. Then it is not a help at all, but usually in more than nearly 100% the cases, the numerals are there. And so I can quickly find out, is this a part I'm looking for? And then I would go into the description and look if the description meets my requirements, for example, in a novelty search. And I can tell you, if you are looking at clutches, at gearing systems, you have hundreds of numerals, and it can be extremely time consuming to work through all those numerals in the patent text. And so this is really, really a big help. For me, this is one major reason for using PatSeer, because I can get down to business very, very quickly with those legends for the drawings.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. I know you explained about numerals in the drawings view, or how the drawings and the different legend explanation is helpful. So thanks about that. I think I lost my connection for a bit while you're talking, but then I was able to hear you. So
okay.
But let me see if we have any questions. I guess people are more interested in asking for your presentation. And let me tell everyone that, yes, this presentation's recording will be available, and we will inform each one of you, or we will drop you an email with a link to that. However, you can follow us on LinkedIn on GridLogic's page. It will be available as well, hopefully soon. So I request all the audience to post their questions on the chat window, because there were a couple of questions which Alex, Dr. Giesen did answer. But in case there are any more questions for Dr. Giesen, please feel free to post it on the chat window here. I guess people are also asking about how they can take how they can see how this legends and annotations work. And I can tell everyone that, feel free to drop an email to sales@patseer.com and take a trial and see it yourself how it works for you, or else we all are there to help you out with the functioning and the working of all these features, what Dr. Giesen showed you in the presentation today.
Yeah,
but,
I like to.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Giesen. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, sure. I just like to add that people may be a little bit irritated by the numerous features this system have, but the good thing is you can basically initially turn off all the features you don't need, and then step by step introduce those features you will find helpful. I mean, depending on what kind of searches you are doing, there are specific features you might never use and others you use every day. I'm also not using all the features constantly. And this is a good thing. You have got the right mixture of complexity and simplicity, which you can adjust according to your needs. And I think that's a big advantage for the system. So the learning curve is very, very shallow if you want to get going with this product. I can't hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay. So I was just saying that would like to add to what you just said, because I know you mentioned there are so many features, and sometimes people may think that, I don't know how to use it, and what am I going to do? I'm not even all the features are helpful. So obviously, I guess, like how you have taken an advanced version, there are different versions, editions of this tool, and people can subscribe as per their need, which is, you can have a researcher's license, you can have advanced analyst license, or you can opt for just like how you were explaining at the beginning of your presentation about the basic level pattern searching. So for doing the basic or a quick pattern searching, I don't think just to be efficient searcher, you have to have like a detailed command line query knowledge. Of course, for increasing the scope or being very specific, then you can use complex query and make use of command line interface and syntaxes. But for a quick searches, You sometimes just want to look for a keyword and get quick answers. And for that, there is an Explorer's edition, which is used by globally used by scientists or R&D engineers who are not really primarily the patent searchers or from the IP domain, but they are one of the people who just want to quickly look up what's out there on a certain technology keywords. So yes, they can subscribe for Explorer. And obviously from project to project, even if you have 20 features, you're not going to use all 20 features because every time your project demands something else. So, but yes, the tool is capable of doing all sorts of basic to advanced searches and basic to advanced visualization analytics, including qualitative and quantitative analytics. So I guess we are running out of time here and very close to running out of time. So there are a few questions which we actually answered on chat, but in case there anything is left and if you think your question is unanswered, please drop an email directly to Dr. Giesen as well, and or you can write to us and we can pass it to him. But feel free to have your questions sent to us by email in case you missed out putting it on the chat. But thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Giesen, once again, for a wonderful presentation. And we will upload your presentation because there are a lot of people who are looking forward to get an access to the presentation slides. So yes, it will be available soon on our website or on our LinkedIn GridLogics page. And I will also drop an email to all the attendees individually. So I thank you, everyone. Yes, thanks so much for taking time out, for being there for today's webinar, and we will keep you posted in maybe a week's time about when and what is our next webinar about. So once again, thank you, everyone, and hope to see you all soon, and stay safe.
Okay, goodbye. It was a pleasure. Bye.
Yes, thank you. Have a good one. Bye.